Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. I am Gunnar Eos, and welcome to another episode of the Logical Gamers podcast. Today, I am with a small but mighty panel. We've got Mr. Hado Wolf and Mr. BlankaKong. Fortunately, no Zeta Kaiser, no Mr. Esoteric tonight, but we hope they're with us in the next one. Things happen. Anyway, on to today's topic. So, today's topic is one that we all have some familiarity with, and you, the viewer, sorry, at home, probably can relate to some of these things. So, the topic we're going to talk about today are most innovative puzzles you've experienced in a video game, and also, you know, memorable puzzles that might not have been innovative, but you enjoyed, and also puzzles that you kind of found weak because we're going to talk about some series mainstays that, in my humble opinion, have had some pretty lackluster puzzles in their latest entries. So that's the topic we're going to cover today, and I will lead it off by talking about a game that I recently played called Signalis. It's a indie survival horror game based in the future where you play as an android who wakes up on a derelict planet. It's very, very sci-fi, and you have to kind of fight your way through other androids who are infected with some type of organic growth that makes them insane. And it's a very, very nice throwback to old school survival horror games. So there's a puzzle that I remember doing from that game where there was a music box on one part of the station that I had to open. So first, I had to find the key to open it. Pretty simple enough. You find the key, you slot it in, boom, you get the puzzle. So it was a puzzle of like the solar system in that game. So it had like the planets in relation to its sun. And I had to figure out the alignment of the planets in order to open up the box. And I was like, how am I going to do that? I don't even know where I am in this game, let alone figuring out the fucking constellations. But then I remembered there's another room further down in the space station that it was a meeting room and it had the constellation and it was spinning. So I was like, oh, this must mean, I used my thinking cap and I was like, oh, okay, so this is the constellation that I have to mimic on the puzzle. But I'm like, wait, how am I going to do this? Do I have to bust out a pen and paper and start drawing shit? No. There was an item that you found earlier in the game that is a robotic eye that literally that takes a picture. Because we're an android, you can swap out body parts. So there was an eyeball that was an equipable item, and essentially takes a picture of your screen. And what I had to do was I had to wait until the constellation lined up on the meeting room on the board there till it lined up to where the sun is on the puzzle box, take a picture, and then use that picture to solve the puzzle for the music box. And while it wasn't the most complex puzzle in the game that I needed a fucking master's degree to figure out, I found it was just intuitive and very well done because I just had to, again, I had to use items that I was given earlier in the game. I have an eyeball that takes a picture. I I have a room that shows the constellation that I need to take a picture of. I just had to wait until it lines up correctly with the central point of the star on the puzzle box puzzle. Take the picture then, go to the puzzle and line up the galaxies and star clusters correctly to solve the puzzle. So, to start off the topic, I found that puzzle super intuitive and super fun, and it was just so refreshing to kind of be stumped for a little bit and go, "Oh man, wait, I have this item. I remember this room. Let me see if this works." Oh shit, it worked. And we don't get a lot of those scenarios much in gaming. So, that's a puzzle that I found pretty innovative and pretty different, and it gelled nicely with the lore of the game, seeing as I'm an android. Yeah, I can take a picture because I'm an android. I'm not human. I can equip myself with different parts. So Signalis, the galaxy puzzle, is going to be my jumping off point to bring it to you guys as an innovative puzzle from a pretty recent game, or at least recent to me, that I played. So, who wants to hit it next with a puzzle from yesteryear or something they played recently that's kind of impacted them or made them go, huh, this is a pretty good puzzle?
Kong, you can go.
As the master Zelda fan here, I'm kidding. I'm not. That's these
Played
two
them
guys.
all.
Nah, I've only finished one Zelda game. That's Breath of the Wild. So, I don't know. This topic is kind of tough for me, right? Like I love Resident Evil, and I've played almost all of them. There's no real puzzles that really stick out to me. I mean, there are puzzles like the one in Resident Evil 1 where you have to like push the button of each portrait in the correct order, and each picture is like a portrait of a man, right? It's like an old man, middle-aged man, baby, you know. Then I think there's a portrait of like a tombstone or something like that. I don't know. I could be misremembering that, but like
I think I remember that. Yeah.
So, like, puzzles like that are kind of cool because I remember when I first played Resident Evil 1, I was so confused. I was like, I don't know what you want me to do, game. But like, I was like 10, so to be fair. So there's puzzles like that that I really enjoyed. I think the last puzzle that had me stumped and I felt really stupid for not fucking realizing it was in Kenna Bridge of Spirits. So in that one, I think it's in the second area. And it's one of those puzzles where it's like, oh, light up the things in the right order. And you have to like shoot these like pillars of light or whatever. And you have to light them up in a certain order. And I couldn't for the life figure it out. I'm like, I don't know what they want me to do. Like, I've shot it in like, I feel like almost every order there is. But what I didn't realize is that there was like a little shrine in the middle with like candles that were lit in a certain order. And I didn't see it because small little candles, like, and it's such a minute like detail that I wasn't paying attention to, but the solution was there the whole time. And I spent like a good hour just like shooting at these fucking pillars, like, why is nothing happening? So that, while frustrating, also refreshing to know that I'm still able to be stumped by like a game. And the fact that the solution was in my face the whole time only makes me like tip my hat to like the puzzle designer, level designer who thought of it. I was like, oh, clever, you got me, man. The another puzzle, and this is more of like platformer puzzles. In Crash Bandicoot 4, there's this level where you get access. I think it's like one of the last levels in the game. I think it's in Cortex's castle, where like you, up until this point, the special masks that have different powers were segregated to like certain levels. So in like one level you would only get access to like the gravity mask. Another level you would get access to the shade to the mask that like phases reality or whatever. Another level you would get access to the mask that controls time or slows time down or whatever. So like, at no point did they combine it, and I always wondered as I was playing the game, I was like, I wonder if they're gonna start like combining the mask powers. And then they did, and there was this sequence in the game where like there's this moving platform. I think it was a moving platform. No, it's not a moving platform. It's one of those levels. It's a side scroller level, so it's like 2D side scroller style, and you have to work your way across the level, obviously, but it's just like laser beams, moving lasers. It's like some clusterfuck shit, like some Mega Man X shit. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And you have to use the powers properly in the right order in order to get through the level. So you would have to like use the gravity shifter power to get over this particular like laser beam. And then as you're falling, you also have to use the time stopper power to slow this laser down in order to get to the other mask. that's gonna give you the ultra spin or whatever to get up to the other mask to face gravity again, and it was just like a sequence of that, of just learning each fucking segment of like each mask and each power and executing it flawlessly. Like there was no checkpoint in that whole sequence. It was do it perfectly now. Like either do it perfectly or start over. And I remember getting through that and like my butthole was clenched like a motherfucker when I finally got it. Like that last attempt where that equaled success, I felt so relieved. I was like, oh my god, I fucking did it, right? And it looked so cool, right? Because I was streaming it at the time as
Yes,
well.
okay. I was about to say. I think I remember I remember watching you do that. I'm like,
Yeah,
this shit is stressing me out, and all I'm doing is just sitting here.
dude, it was so stressful, but stressful in a good way. Like it was really intense and like really memorable, and I'll never forget that level. That level was so good. So like puzzles like that, and it's not like a traditional puzzle. It's like more of an execution puzzle, but it's still a puzzle, right? Because
It's
the solutions are there. It's up to you to execute it and understand how to like use these tools. So that's a puzzle in its own respect, right? So that to me is one of my favorite like platformer puzzles that I remember. I'm trying to think, and I can't think of any others at the moment. But I'll leave it to Wolf. He can tell us about the cool Zelda puzzle that he has in mind. I'm sure he knows all about Zelda.
I mean, that's what Zelda is.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But let's start off with Zelda, since he's trying to predict my list. I'm gonna start off with the infamous one, which we all know. The one that drove me crazy to the point where it was either put the DS down. No. It was either put the DS down or throw the DS across the room. And that was the Phantom Hourglass copy puzzle. Yeah. So it's very vague in what it tells you to do. It says, because it's a crest or like the symbol you were supposed to press onto the sea chart. Because Phantom Hourglass was a Zelda game that was based on the sea because it's coming from Wind Waker. So you had a sea chart and there was this symbol you were supposed to press down onto the sea chart. And when I was in the middle of the puzzle, when I was trying to do it, I thought I had to draw it or drag it. So I'm playing with the touch screen, I'm pushing buttons, it's not letting me cancel out of the puzzle. I thought the game glitched. I was like, if it did, then I would have lost all my content. I grew annoyed at the same time, and I just closed the DS and threw it to the side of me. I watched maybe like an hour or two of anime after I calmed down, and I opened the DS again, and you get the Zelda chime, that the music that plays when you complete a puzzle. I was so infuriated and frustrated with that puzzle. I closed the DS again and didn't play the game for the rest of the night.
Yup, same.
I was like, I'm over this game right now. I can't. And it's a very simple puzzle, but I guess I didn't read. Reading is fundamental, and because I didn't read enough, or because I didn't use critical thinking, I ended up getting frustrated over a puzzle that all it wanted me to do was put the DS in sleep mode, wait a minute, and then come back to it later. And I really was like, this cannot be the way to solve the puzzle. I searched it up online, and yeah, it's an infamous puzzle in the Zelda mainline that it stumped a lot of people. I will never forget that puzzle. It's puzzles like that makes me love the Legend of Zelda franchise. So that's my first one.
Okay, but shit. I remember that one, and pretty much how I reacted was the same way you reacted. I got frustrated, threw it on my bed, went to do something else, came back, heard that little chime, got frustrated again, closed the DS, and was like, you know what? I will come back to you. You're okay, game.
I was so annoyed. I was so annoyed. I let it go. I was like, I'm done.
They never did a puzzle like that, and that wasn't the only Zelda game on the DS. So they knew, even they knew what they made. So, yeah, keeping it right along, I'll mention another Zelda puzzle that I really liked, and it's also I really liked this dungeon as a whole. It had really fun puzzles. Like they weren't on that level where it's like, haha, I gotcha. No, but it was a fun puzzle. So it was the puzzles in Twilight Princess, specifically the Arbiter's Ground dungeon. So for those who don't know what that is, it's a
Prison.
dungeon. Right. It's like a Roman inspired prison, and it's the traditional Zelda level that has the undead. So you have the re-deads, the pose, and the skeletons. So it's like a very spoopy dungeon. But what I really liked about the puzzles in there was the puzzles that involved the gadget that you got for that dungeon, which was the spinner. Now, for those that don't know what the spinner is, it's basically a top. I don't want to use Beyblade because that's what but not everyone knows what Beyblade is. It's a top, and Link would hop on the top, and it would spin like a top. And what made it cool, and what made the puzzles in that dungeon cool to me, was that everything seemed very inaccessible. There was like giant missing pieces of the floor that had sand that if Link jumped in, he'd be sucked to the bottom and you'd lose a heart. But once you got the spinner, you were able to like basically hook up to little indents in the wall and just navigate the entire dungeon. And some of the puzzles was like, yeah, see, so Wolf gets it. It was like you had to like move bridges around and like fill certain rooms with sand and take sand out of certain rooms, and you did that with the spinner. So you would spin around the room, put the spinner in place. It would act as like a fulcrum to the gears, and it would just spin the bridges. And again, this was for me another puzzle that wasn't like mind-boggling. It didn't cause me to have to unlock all my brain cells, but it was just a really fun puzzle system that implemented a really niche, because that's not a gadget that I would want in every Zelda game. It's bow or your hook shot or your boomerang or anything like that, but it was just such a cool gadget that created such cool puzzles within that dungeon. And I know this is a little bit off tangent, but the way you use that gadget to fight the boss for that dungeon,
epic.
It's one of my favorite dungeons from Twilight Princess, hands down. And the puzzles there were just so much fun. So that's my third. That's my second entry. Sorry, I can't count. The Arbiter's Grounds and the spinner puzzles from Twilight Princess.
And I want to expand on Gunner's
Oh,
point
yeah,
about that piece or that gadget that he got as well. It acted as like a substitute for missing gears in certain parts of the dungeon. So like there are points where you had to open a door, but the gear to spin for the door to be open couldn't open. So you use the gadget and you would spin in place to replace the missing gear to like wind the door open, and then you will have a set time that you had to beeline through it. It was pretty cool. And that was the first time the game introduces you to Re-Dead. The Twilight version of Re-Dead. Disclaimer, I screamed like a little bitch.
Those things are creepy, man. I don't care how old.
That shit scared the crap out of me. Like I dropped my controller. I was like, okay, let me catch my breath. Go back into it. Re-Deads have always been scary, but because of graphical limitations, they don't look scary. Twilight Princess got them perfect. They are the creepiest things to come out of a Zelda franchise. Them shits is creepy.
So
Twilight Princess was Twilight Princess was a very like gritty, dark, and like kind of like I guess a more mature Zelda game. So they made those Re-Deads, and this is the GameCube, so a far cry from the N64 graphic. Because it was on GameCube, they just look like shit. I mean, I have the Master Sword, and it's still creeping me out.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Kong. I know you were gonna.
No, I was gonna say like I technically mentioned like 2 in the beginning, so if you guys want to like go back around, Wolf, you
Oh,
can hit us with another one.
yeah, I got one. Pokemon Emerald. Well, 3rd generation Pokemon in general. Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald was the stupid. It was how you had to get the I think they're called the Titans. They're the Regirock, Regice,
Mm-hmm.
Registeel. So the Titans, because I know Gunnar probably didn't play that one.
No, I just know the Pokemon. Yeah.
Okay, so at least you know the Pokemon, but
Yeah.
they're called the Legendary Titans, I believe. And you had to unlock them because Emerald, Ruby, and Sapphire had a lot of underwater up and land stuff because of the legendary Pokemon for themselves. So the Titans were stuck in like these underwater caves that you had to raise out of the ground, which I think is like a short little quest to get that done in itself. On top of that, the coding to how to unlock the door within the cave was written in Braille. I was what, 14, 15?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what the fuck Braille was. I'm not blind to know what Braille is. Like, call me ignorant as a teenager. That is my most ignorant time of life. Very simple-minded and short-tempered. And I read I touched the rock, the text box appeared on my screen, and all I saw was dots. And I was like, the fuck is this? It's just dots. And it's like for like 3 days, I'm trying to figure out what are these dots that's on like that keeps showing up because I was like, I don't know what this is. And then finally got myself to a computer because at 15 I didn't have much access to internet. If it wasn't school on a free day or at a time where I can sneak on my art teacher's computer, I didn't really have access to internet like that. So I looked it up and they're like, oh, well, the codes is written in Braille. And I was like, okay, well, so now I have to decode this. So I ended up getting a sheet of paper and I had to write all 26 letters of the alphabet in their equivalent version of what Braille is. And not only was that frustrating, I felt like I was doing homework for a video game. It's like I took a foreign language for my video game. It was like, okay, this is fun. And on top of that, to add insult to injury, it's a quest you have to do to unlock the cave. Then you have to do homework to understand what the text is saying because it's written in Braille. Then the text, once translated, is requirements that you have to meet for the door to unlock to begin with. And I was like, I'm done. Like I don't want these shits anymore. But looking back at it, again, it goes back to another podcast that we spoke about. That was thinking that I had to do because I didn't have access to the internet. And then from there, once I figured everything out, I was like, okay, well, that was a process. It was a process. It wasn't fun at first because I didn't understand what Braille is. But ultimately, when I think back at it now, it's just like, yo, this is something I will never forget in any Pokemon game. I remember that better than say my first shiny. And that's because it was about a week's worth of effort. Because at 15, in my household, internet was a luxury. So I didn't have that. And I had to go to school. And going to school, I was occupied with what you do in school, work. So if it wasn't lunchtime or if it wasn't after school or if my art teacher had just like turned a blind eye real quick, I only had his computer to use, not even the library, because the library had blocked certain websites, like most video game websites was blocked and stuff like that. So it was just like, this was a week. A week. It took like 4 days to get the steel one. It took like 2 days to get the ice one. And it took like a whole weekend to get the rock one. And it was just like this right here, I'm never forgetting. And that's why Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald get such high praises from me. It's one of those reasons why it gets such high praises from me as a game in the Pokemon franchise. I'll never forget the Legendary Titans. I can't.
I mean, that's a memorable puzzle. This was before, like you said, you didn't have ready access to internet. There ain't no iPhones, no Androids, none of that. No
Shit.
internet in our pocket, no 4G, 3G. We weren't even at G's yet. So it's like, and that one could say, oh, there was probably a strategy guide you could get, but it's just like, what money? My job is to go to school and get good grades. I don't have money to buy a strategy guide. And it's like,
well,
so
it's
either
funny you mentioned strategy guide.
Okay.
I have a story unrelated to puzzles, but Wolf just mentioned Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. You just mentioned strategy guides, and you just activated a memory that I have to share. And I think Wolf knows the memory, so I'll share it real quick. So, Wolf already mentioned this was 2003, 2004. We were like 14, 15 years old. At this point in time, the internet did exist. It was accessible, but it was not accessible to us. And we did go to high school together. For anybody listening wondering, is like, how do you know this? Because I was there. So we were both playing. I had Ruby, he had Sapphire, and we were both into Pokemon, and we were both playing it pretty blindly. And information was scarce. Now looking back, I know there was effort values and all this other stuff. I didn't know any of that shit back then, right? And even if somebody told me, I wouldn't have understood it. So I might as well have not known. Anyway, Mr. Wolf definitely wanted to increase his knowledge of Pokemon through one way or another. And there was this Toys R Us that we would go to frequently. It's no longer there, unfortunately. It tore it down years ago, but we would go in there to just kill time with another friend from high school, and we would just kind of walk around and look at stuff and just kind of kill time. We didn't have money to buy anything. We just kind of wandered the streets and wandered into these different establishments. And Toys R Us just happened to be one of these places. And Toys R Us did sell video games, and they also sold video game strategy guides. However, they did have these like security gimmicks in the front of the store. And he wanted the strategy guide, and I wanted it too, but we didn't want to, we didn't have the money to pay for it, but we also didn't want to get in trouble for taking it. So I thought, well, shit, and I remember having this thought, the only way, they can't possibly secure each page of this book, right? Surely if there's a security tag on this thing, which there wasn't any, right? Looking back, knowing what I know now, I know that the product just wasn't secure. I ripped the front and back of the book, and I said, just walk out with this, man. Just put it in your bag. That'll be that, right? It shouldn't activate the security sensors, because it was like this weird silver sticker on the back, which was really just a part of the manufacturing process. It's not actually like a security tag or anything like that. But I thought it was. And so I ripped it off, and I remember we were walking out of that fucking Toys R Us. I was scared as shit. I was like, oh my god, if this thing goes off, man. And it didn't go off, and we got out like bandits. And he had the Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire strategy guide, and I'm sure without the fucking covers or back. But more importantly, he had all the contents within. And I'm sure he could tell you about reading. He probably read that shit all night, absorbing as much knowledge as possible. But you just reminded me of that. I figured I'd throw that out there because it was a funny story.
Hey.
The things you do when you're a 14-year-old growing up in not such a great financial situation. It's like,
It's like, could one consider that a crime? Sure, but we all ended up as pretty law-abiding, decent human beings, later on in life. So
Yes.
we're all okay. No,
Hey, I
Yes.
pay my
No-
taxes. I pay my taxes. So
right.
that's
right.
behind me now.
No tax evasion in this podcast.
No sir.
Yeah.
So anyway, Gunnar, you could tell us your next puzzle.
Okay, so the next puzzle that I remember having an impact on me is Resident Evil. And specifically because I'm gonna say it was the remake of Resident Evil 2 that had the same puzzle, but if you guys watch our podcasts, I will give it to this one that the fact that it was a more modern version of it did definitely help me have more fun with it, even though it's fundamentally the same puzzle. So, what am I talking about? It is the chess piece puzzle from Resident Evil 2. Now, the reason why I specifically say the remake of 2 is because I liked the what is it called? The B side. So for those who don't know, there's when you beat one of the campaigns, whether it's Claire or Leon, you get a beta version of the campaign. So if you beat the game as Leon, that's Leon A, and you get Claire B, and vice versa. So Claire B or the beta one had the same knight or chess piece puzzle, but unlike the alpha version where it gave you pretty much all the hints you need, this one didn't give you a lot of hints. It just gave you basic like documents between workers that you could read, which would kind of give you clues as to where the pieces would go. So it's like, oh, the queen doesn't like to be next to the rook, but the rook likes to be X spaces away from the pawn, and the pawn has to be on the same side as the king. So it's just a lot of that stuff. And you
Wow.
have to use your brain to, especially on the B side, to kind of figure out, okay, so the queen wants to be here, but the rook has to be here. The pawn doesn't like to be here, but it has to be on this side. And you have to collect all these puzzles while beforehand using those pieces to access certain floors and elevators within the sewer level. Because all this took place during Resident Evil 2's sewer level. So I just found that cool that not only were these pieces used in the puzzle, because a lot of Resident Evil games, they use pieces, but it's like a one-time thing. So once you use this piece, that's the puzzle you use it for, and you move on. But this one I had to use some of the pieces to access elevators and to unlock doors within the rest of the sewer level. So I had to kind of like pick which pieces I needed. It's like, oh, okay, so this piece needs a rook to open, and then in the remake you had to go through like this whole gate puzzle. So it was like a puzzle to get a puzzle piece to get the queen and the king puzzle. So like that whole culmination, that whole little, not little, but that whole sewer level, which culminated in me collecting all the chess pieces to figure out the chessboard to open the big door to get to Ada or Ash or I'm gonna get outed as a fake Resident Evil fan. Cheryl? Yes. Um, you can roast me if I get it wrong in the comments. It's fine. I'm a fake fan.
You're talking about the little girl that's with
yeah.
Claire? Sherry?
Sherry. There you go, Sherry.
Sherry.
Best character in 6, by the way. That's a lie. So either to save those two girls or women. So in synopsis, so I could stop rambling and looking like an idiot. I like the chess piece puzzle from Resident Evil 2, specifically the remake, because the enhanced gameplay and the graphics, I will give it to graphics on this one, just gave the puzzle more of a oomph to me. But I mean, it wasn't an OG puzzle in the original 2, so I'm not. So yeah, the chess piece puzzle from Resident Evil 2, me specifically, Resident Evil 2 remake, was a really fun puzzle, and I've never seen that puzzle used again in another Resident Evil game. I'm pretty confident I've never seen it again. Yeah, okay. I'm trying to think back in my memory banks. I've never seen it again.
Yeah,
Nah,
so I was actually going to use that one as one of mine, but that's okay. That's all right because I had another one. What were you going to say, Wolf? My bad.
no. Go ahead.
So the other one that I had banked for Resident Evil, as I was kind of like looking through all the puzzles, because I can't. It's hard for me to remember these puzzles because I played these games so long ago. But I saw this one, I was like, oh shit, this puzzle was amazing, and it was Resident Evil 7. It was a part of the DLC. I think it was called like Escape or something like that, where you were like chained up to a bed. You were basically apprehended by what's his name, Marguerite.
Yes,
Marguerite,
that's the wife.
the wife, and she was basically holding you hostage in this house and feeding you a bunch of garbage. Like she would bring you like soup with like worms in it and stuff like that. It was really really gross. So anyway, this is all in first person, and your character is chained up to the bed, and she is out there, and she would come in every so often to check up on you or to feed you. And so at one point, when she brings you the first bowl of soup, she leaves it with a spoon, and you're able to use the spoon to undo the bolts inside the straps that are holding you down. So when you do that, you're able to actually maneuver in the room. And so you have to find a way to get into this like secret door, or it's not a secret door, it's a locked door. And there's like a puzzle mechanism with pictures. But in order to get to them, like everything is kind of scattered in a room. You have to like investigate in the room. But if you're investigating stuff and you're being too loud, she will come in. And if she sees you outside of the bed, then game over. So she'll like if you make a noise or if you step on something or if you do anything that'll like alert her, she'll come run. She was like, "Hey, what are you doing in there?" She'll come in there, and like that shit is so intense. Because it's automatic game over. So like you got to run back into the bed and like pretend like you were sitting there. But like let's say if you do something like you don't refasten the fucking strap, she'll notice it and she'll kill you. So it's like little things like that. It's like makes it even more intense. Like you got to make sure everything's in place, and the pictures that you move on the wall, you got to make sure that they're in at least close enough of a position to where they were. Because if she sees something on the floor that wasn't on the floor before, you lose. She'll kill you. She'll realize it. She'll say something, some text related to like the change in the room. She's like, "This picture wasn't here on the floor. You've been lying to me, boy," and she'll just kill you.
That's crazy. That's
so
scary.
it was a really intricate. Like if you ever want to have like just a really small taste of like what RE7's like universe was like, just play that part of the DLC. I think that DLC was perfect. Like it was so interesting. But anyway, like you have to kind of go back and forth and like keep trying to figure out this puzzle and collect. I think you got to collect like these dead mice or something like that. I think it's been a long time. The game came out in 2017, so this is a while ago now. But yeah, you have to collect something and like you have to figure out this picture puzzle. And then once you get into the room that you're supposed to get into, there's like another puzzle that you have to figure out. So now you have to like manage all the changes in both rooms, because if she sees like, let's say you leave the door open, right, or something like that, she'll see that and game over. You got to start over from the beginning again. So that escape puzzle was really really good. Good DLC content for Resident Evil 7. So that's another puzzle that as soon as I saw just one image of the room, it immediately brought back all those memories of this stupid woman killing me because I didn't eat her soup. So yeah, RE7 Escape.
That's intense. I don't think I would play it because it's that intense, and that'll frustrate me. Oh, I already don't play RE games.
To play it. I will pay you to play that shit. It's so good.
Nope. My next one is very simple, very straightforward. Ocarina of Time's Water Temple. Enough said. That shit. That shit is a puzzle. The whole thing is a puzzle. All of it. It's like just bad. It's the Water Temple in Ocarina of Time was so bad that when they redid it on the 3DS,
Oh,
They
yeah.
added guidelines for it so that you can actually complete the whole temple. And it's that dungeon is the most. I was in that water temple when I first played it for over 4 hours, changing water levels, going from the top to the bottom, back to the top, back to the bottom, changing water levels again. That is just one big dungeon of just, it's the dungeon itself is the puzzle. It is the puzzle. It's not just walk into a room, mini boss, fight, walk into some rooms with enemies, puzzle here and there. No, the whole dungeon is a puzzle. It is a puzzle, and it's just a lot of patience with it.
You had to play Zelda's Lullaby to change certain things. So you had like a
Mhm.
bust out the ocarina. Up, you fucked up. Bust out the ocarina again. Yeah, it was rough. I'm surprised not to toot my own horn or anything, but I'm surprised I beat it when I first played it. It was rough, and it made that game last way longer than its normal runtime. But it felt like I won the lottery when I beat that shit.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Not to mention, it culminated in one of the most frustrating bosses of the Zelda series. So not only did you get a frustrating dungeon, you had to fight Dark Link. I believe it was the same place you fought Dark Link.
Dark Link, yeah.
Yeah, and it
That
was
was
like, oh great, now
fun.
this fucking, I thought my game was broken. I'm like, this thing is fucking hacked. I can't beat it. Yeah, you can. It's just fucking tough.
Dark Link was one of the hardest bosses I fought in a Zelda game. Dark Link was no joke.
Yeah, well, Water Temple serious business. I will definitely admit to that one. Okay, so I got one more for me. And it is the same game, Resident Evil 7 that Kong just mentioned. And the reason I like this puzzle is because it's completely optional. You could never do it. It's the Lucas's birthday room puzzle in 7. So for just I guess some context for Wolf, because I know he's definitely not a fan of the RE series, and for you, the viewer, there are videotapes that Ethan, the main character of 7, can find throughout the game, where if you find a VCR, it's an old way of playing media for those that don't know. You can put it in and you can watch what's on the VCR. So one of the tapes was of a survivor, or a not survivor, but one of the captives that the Baker family had in their home. And the survivor had to go through this whole puzzle room with like a dummy that was very reminiscent of Saw, and you had to solve these different puzzles. And the goal was to get a lit birthday candle into the next room so you can top the birthday cake. But there was always water that would spray on top of you every time you entered the threshold of the room. It would blow out. It would extinguish the flame. So you had to like basically do a bunch of things. You had to dip your hand in a toilet to find a periscope, a monoscope, to be able to zoom in on another puzzle that was like blacklight but had numbers to open up a lock. It was like a whole fucking series of puzzles. And at the end, once you got the candle into the room to top the birthday cake, the character in the videotape died, because after that there was a screw that you took out of a barrel that was leaking liquid on the floor. And while you're doing the puzzle, you're like, oh, I don't give a shit what this is. I need this screw. Little did you know that was oil. So once the cake explodes, it releases the candle and the whole room catches on fire. And that character in the tape dies. But you, as the main character, Ethan, you now know what not to do to end up in the same situation. So at a certain point of the game, Lucas captures you and puts you in the same room, and you have to do the same puzzle. But instead of completing the puzzle, knowing that you're going to get killed, you don't complete that aspect of the puzzle, and that's how you get out of the puzzle room. Once I finished that whole thing, I was like, that's fucking genius. Because the videotape is completely optional. You have to go to specific rooms or like a room in the first half of the game to even watch the video. And you don't have to. You can literally just put in your box and go about your business. But the fact that they gave you a solution to the puzzle while making you act out the puzzle, so when you find yourself in that situation, you know what not to do, it's just like, that's genius. And most can agree it was Resident Evil 7 that saved the Resident Evil from becoming the Michael Bay Transformer like fucking games that 5 and especially 6 became. Because if you want to you want no puzzles, 6 is your boy. But 7 had some really amazing puzzles. And when Kong mentioned one of the DLC puzzles from 7, I just remembered that puzzle and I was like, that's fucking 5D chess. Here's the solution that you don't do so you can live and not end up like that guy. I was like, that's fucking great. So I'll leave off the night by mentioning the birthday. I don't know the official name, but I'll call it the birthday room puzzle from Resident Evil 7. That was a fucking great puzzle.
That sounds like an example of the game teaching you without telling you.
Exactly. And it was just like teaching you what not to do, which not a lot of games do that. It's like, this is the solution to the puzzle, but you don't want to do that because you'll end up like the last guy. And if you follow the puzzle to the letter, you will end up like that guy. You will burn to death in that room and get a game over and have to do it again. It's a fucking great puzzle. I love that puzzle.
Agreed. That was actually one of the ones I was thinking about as I was looking through all the different puzzles. I was like, that was a good puzzle, but I thought maybe you'd mention it. So I figured the escape puzzle would be, because I like both, but the escape puzzle was just so much more fun. It's something about like being threatened by a character or enemy character while trying to figure something out that makes those puzzles stick out to me so much more. Like it's part of the reason why Resident Evil 3's the original Resident Evil 3 is is my favorite Resident Evil, is because Nemesis is always on you. You're trying to like figure out where to go. Like that the whole part in RE3 where original RE3 where you're trying to get the cable, the electrical cable, the oil, whatever, the stuff you needed for like the train cart to get it moving. You're like in the city kind of like trying to find these parts. And fucking Nemesis is just following you. It's like, dude, I'm trying to find stuff, man. So like that, games like that always like
some like looming threat that is gonna get in your way while you're trying to. Okay.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed that.
That was news to me because unfortunately, I think I played it after the fact, but I just missed out on a lot of the Resident Evil. So I didn't know about that whole Marguerite themed.
Oh, you should go
episode.
back and play it. You should go back and play it. Like it's totally worth it. Specifically that. I mean, there's more stuff. There's one where Jack Baker's like hunting you down in the house, and it's like a survival mode where you just gotta live as long as you can. And like they just throw everything at you. It's basically just hordes of enemies, and you kill stuff, they drop guns, and you just kind of like live as long as you can. There's that. So like if you just want something more action packed, they have that. But like if you want puzzles and like classic RE stuff, that Escape DLC is totally worth it. If you have like the gold edition of the game, it's on there. So
okay, I think I do. I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, give it a spin. Let me know. Some honorable mentions. I like the puzzles that are like trial and error based. So like there are classic Resident Evil puzzles that like there's like one empty slot and it's like a jigsaw puzzle and you have to like shift things around, but you have a limited amount of like moves.
Oh yeah,
all those puzzles.
Yeah,
I think RE4 had one. I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. RE4 probably, I'm sure has. I don't remember specifically, but I know RE. I think Code Veronica has some. I forget which other ones have, but I remember doing a lot of those puzzles in Resident Evil. So I like those shifter puzzles where it's like you got to shift around and you only have a certain amount of moves. And if you fuck up, then you got to start
Yes.
over and you got to kind of rack your brain until you figure out the perfect execution. Another one is like RE2, the fucking another trial and error puzzle. Those little portable, like little portable, like I guess you call it safe. It's like a little portable thing. It has like 8 buttons on it, and you have to hit the buttons in a
Yes,
certain
the portable
succession.
safe puzzles. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
those are really cool. I really enjoyed doing those too, even though there was only like a few of them. But when I got them, I was like, ooh, like this is a nice little escape from Mr. X for a minute, and I can actually do this little puzzle. It gives me a little key or a little, a little something to go discover something else. Like RE is all about like just here's a key to another thing, and then this key unlocks this room that gives you a key to something else that you saw earlier, and then you go to that thing earlier, and there's another key to this other thing, and this just that's all the game is. It's just fucking
Yeah.
unlocking shit, and it's so cool. Something about that really works. Anyway, any last puzzles that you want to mention, Wolf, that really stuck out to you?
Not any in specific, just like video games that I remember having good challenging puzzles. Golden Sun, the first 2 ones on the Game Boy Advance had really good puzzles for a JRPG. WarioWare was another one that got real addictive with its quick thinking and problem solving abilities, or type of game that it is anyways, puzzle game that it is. And that's pretty much it that comes to mind. I'm pretty sure I've played other video games with puzzles, but they probably haven't stuck out to me the way that the ones that I did mention have stuck out to me, really.
Okay. Well, with that being said, I know there's a bunch of other games that I thought about mentioning, like Dino Crisis, Silent Hill. There's a bunch of games that have like really good puzzles, but the ones that I mentioned are the ones that like kind of came to mind. So for those listening, let us know some of the puzzles that you really enjoyed. Let us know of one that maybe we didn't mention in the comments down below. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed this conversation, a dislike if you didn't. Subscribe for more content. We do podcast episodes every week. Wednesday at Eastern Standard is when they publish. We also do 2-minute reviews, long form gameplay content, mostly pulled from any streams that we do. Mr. Esoteric, who isn't present, he streams on the main channel on Logical Gamers TV on Twitch. So give him a follow so that you know when he goes live. He plays a lot of different things. He'll play indie games like Tunic to like AAA games like God of War and Horizon. He plays all sorts of things. He also does multiplayer nights for Splatoon and Fall Guys and other games like it. So definitely check him out for that kind of content. Follow him there. We also have a Discord, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So the links to all those particular platforms will be in the description. So if you're interested, check that out there. And that's pretty much it. So thank you guys for a great conversation. Thank you, whoever's listening, for listening. Appreciate your viewership. And we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Next time.
Yes.